Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network's YouTube channel. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can find us on Facebook and stay up to date on our Facebook group, or find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for podcasts, hosts, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Mekas. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and don't forget to follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. Soullular healing, mind, body, and soul connection. A globally recognized luminary, inspirer, celestial guide, celestial and generational earth shaman, the creator of the Illumination Retreat, the creator of Soullular Healing, and the host of Soul to Soul with Roxanne. Her purpose is to lead beautiful souls to effectively illuminate their soul's luxuriance. She has successfully guided thousands of beautiful souls to connect with their most divine essence by teaching them to alchemize and harmonize their internal medicines and experiences so that they can effectively heal and create everything they desire in their life while experiencing sensations of enlightened knowingness, unconditional love, and unwavering inner peace throughout their journey. Let's welcome to the show for the first time, Roxanne Chaput. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it.
Wow. Yes.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. Awesome. What started you on this journey to where you are now?
That's such a great question, Paul. For me, I had these whispers of my soul my entire life. I knew since a very tender age that I was being called to serve. I didn't understand what that was going to look like. I just knew that I was here to make an impact. And I had this burning fire in the pit of my belly, and I couldn't explain it. And I tried to, rationalize it, and I tried to express it to countless families and friends of, do you have this burning desire and feeling that you are being called to serve, that you're being called to have an impact? And I never resonated with anyone. And so many things had happened throughout my journey. Since I was young, I would have adults coming to me for wisdom, sharing their life story, sharing their life path, sharing their most inner, most reverent secrets that they had within them. And they weren't even always, dark secrets, just secrets of themselves that they would not allow others to see. And I just remember always being asked for guidance or wisdom, or them just wanting to hear, what I thought in terms of stewardship or mentorship. And I remember my parents telling me, you should really be a psychologist. You should really be a psychiatrist or a counselor or something of the sort. And that never spoke in the resonance of my soul. I knew that wasn't what I was being called for. And I went through, countless experiences throughout life, so many incredible lessons that were gifted to me through the duality of life. And then I had my first near-death experience. And that really shifted an immense perspective for me to really have that more introspection, that more inner self-reflection, to really ask myself the deeper questions. Am I serving the way that I'm intended to serve? And the answer was no. At the time I was working as an executive in the educational sector, and it was fulfilling because I, really just put passion into everything that I've done. Yet there was something that was missing. There was something that was lacking, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I had, right before my first near-death experience, I had left a very unhealthy marriage, and I chose myself, which I never thought I was going to do, because, my vow to myself was to stay with, the father of my children until they were old enough. And that would be my sacrifice to them, because I didn't have that growing up. So there were so many pivotal moments that had happened in my life that really started shifting my perspective on what I was here to do. And that was just like a beautiful unfolding and a beautiful moment of awakening. That was probably one of my first awakening periods that I've had. And then after that, as you know, is just like countless awakening periods that follow shortly after that.
Yeah, it's these sporadic, unexpected downloads that we get. It's like, whoa, these epiphanies. And in a sense, too, everybody has that burning question of that internal dialogue. What is the purpose of all of this? Why am I here? And you found it.
And
so lucky, but also some people that, a lot of people need help finding that.
Yeah. And it was like this little accumulation of this, this puzzle piece that I had gathered, yet it wasn't, the full imagery. And I still don't have the full imagery to this now moment. It's still unfolding before me.
Mm-hmm.
And after that first near-death experience, shortly after, I experienced 3 more near-death experiences right after that. So they were very simultaneous, and it was like deep awakening after deep awakening after deep awakening. And it was just such deep transformation. And then I was called by the dream spirit, from dream state, to really start coming into more of the generational aspects of my gifts or our tribal community. And how do I, sit with our mentors? How do I sit with our elders? How do I understand the wisdom? How do I understand the medicines, the healing practices, the traditions? It was just such a beautiful unfolding of my journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what type of shamanic work do you do? Can you describe the?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are maybe unfamiliar with shamanism, so being a shaman is in reference of, hundreds of thousands of years ago, where there were tribal communities, and there still are tribal communities to this day, but they would regard their shamans as like our doctors nowadays, but they would be like the energy doctors, the spirit doctors, the herbalists, things like that, of that nature.
Yeah.
So there's like this wheel in shamanism of like different variations of specialties, of specializations, of where we focus our healing. So there could be transient states, there could be knowingness, there could be intuitive reading. There's just like, it ranges from a different, variety of things. And then in the middle, there's a void healer that kind of taps into all of those gifts. So that was kind of where I was, led by my mentors and the elders, and through countless journeys, is that I'm a void healer. So I connect with all of the gifts, and then I utilize all the gifts depending on the soul's essence and depending on the soul's requirements and needs. So typically how I come to know this is obviously being in connection with their highest self. What is in the best interest of that highest self in this now moment? Do they need to go more into the emotional body and do somatic movement? Do they need to go into a transient state? Do they need to go more into the intellectual bodies? Do they need to go into the centers of intelligence of their, their energetic center? So it really just differentiates between every single individual.
Yeah. How can we heal ourselves?
Yeah, so we do heal ourselves. No, I hate the word healer in a way that we reference that somebody else heals us, because that's not what happens. We are all capable of healing ourselves. We are all healers at the metrics of who we are. Our body, its natural mechanism is to know how to heal and heal itself. When we cut ourselves open and we have a gaping wound, our body naturally knows in the progression of the cell's regeneration, it knows how to heal itself. The same holds true when it happens within the energetic fields, within the emotional body, within the intellectual body, even in our sensories, right? In the bodies of our sensories. So our body knows naturally how to heal. What happens is that we prevent its healing because there's a lot of limited beliefs that we can't heal ourselves. So we're always looking for external remedies in order to remedy ourselves. It doesn't mean that there's no place for Western medicine, because there absolutely is. I think there's a beautiful harmonic movement that can happen and flow and weave between the both of them. We're so advanced in science now that we understand ourselves more than we ever have, and yet we still don't understand ourselves fully.
Yeah.
So there's this beautiful place where we can have that harmonic resonance of listening to our soul's highest wisdom. What is it needed in this now moment? Like what needs to be released? So it's teaching people how they can affect their own healing and empowering them to heal themselves. Not any other person can heal them. They can help facilitate. I can move energy. I can flow energy. I can bring them into, conscious states. I can bring them into their alpha. I can bring them into their theta. At the end of the day, it's them that is holding the body of work. It's only stewardship that we're doing.
Yeah. The assistance. Yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it seems, through the years, especially it seems to be noticing it recently within at least the last decade, there's a big surge of, holistic medicines and alternative medicines that are becoming rediscovered.
Absolutely.
So to speak. It's existed for a long time.
A long time.
It just seems like there's a rediscoverance of it, and it's coming out. Do you feel that as well? And
yeah, I feel like there is a resurgence, and the resurgence is that we have forgotten the soul aspect of who we are. When we look at more Western modalities, it's not about being in tune with ourselves or about listening to ourselves or, really honoring the soul throughout that process. It's very much give your power away, let somebody else, tell you what's wrong with you, how to heal yourself and things like that, and metrics of like Band-Aids and things like that. But then there also are some healing and curing that happen with some of these medicines, right? So there's no, disrespect in any of that regard. But there's this part where we're not actually connecting every complexity of who we are. We are multidimensional. No one issue is sitting at one level. If it's presenting itself in the physical form, it means that it's rooted within the cellular complex. It's already happening within the energy field. You can't heal something without getting to the root of the healing. It's like putting this massive boulder into your wound and then, expecting it to heal the way that it's intended without infection or without, cause for disruption in the body. It's not possible because you're not getting to the root of the issue, and nor is that wound clear and being, managed and nurtured and taken care of. So there's this aspect, and we're seeing this throughout so many practitioners that are like, I've worked with neuropsychologists, I've worked with psychologists, I've worked with psychiatrists, I've worked with medical doctors. I was in healthcare for over 13 years. And they're just now starting to come back into the holistic aspect of everything because they're realizing that it's so much more than just the physical elements of the body, of the organs, of the muscle tissue. It stems from beyond that. And those that are willing, to really lean into that, which, as science and spirituality has such, on two sides of the spectrum, but we are seeing an emergence coming together as we're having more research studies, happening that, we are proven, we do have a soul, we are, energetic frequency, we are energetic matter. And that is the biggest disposition within us. So if we are not supporting and holding that as we're healing the body or healing the emotional concepts of the body, the mental health issues of the body, then we're not effectively healing, we're band-aiding, right? So it's understanding those concepts and coming into fruition.
Do you see a lot of, or many doctors out there in the general Western medicine that are kind of, I've seen a couple completely leave the field.
Yep.
And start their own, functional medicine, stuff like that, or their own practitioner. Have you seen a lot of that?
Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with thousands of medical practitioners and not just, the doctors, but nurse practitioners and things like that are looking not so much of just, naturopathy or homeopathy, but they're looking at the exploration of how can I look at someone and help someone, navigate through their journey holistically? I understand the medical science behind, this aspect of the body, but we don't even fully understand the body. We're still discovering where our hearts are. Like we just found out that we have, a brain within our heart spectrum. We have a brain within our intuitive knowingness. Now, I think what's going to happen, my personal suspicions is that we are going to find brains and centers of intelligence. And this is why I refer to them as that, because in every chakra system, I believe, is a center of intelligence. It's neurons that are meeting, they're transmitting, and they're making decisions, and they're coming together. And it's the brain is just the big computer, right? That's processing. So it's really beautiful. And we still don't even understand everything like of how we utilize the brain, right? So there's so much to learn, and it's so exciting, and it's so beautiful to see, like, again, like this beautiful fluidity of how science is starting to lean into the spiritual complex, understanding that we are multidimensional. When we think about quantum science, even like neuroscience and things like that, they're realizing that there's so much more to the mind, right, of how we can connect. So it's really powerful to see. So for these people to come into these practices, you can see that they are feeling fulfilled, and they don't feel like they're just, doing things by what they've been told and guided to do. They're actually following their own intuitiveness and the way that they're affecting that stewardship, and how, to help facilitate healing in others.
Yeah, and as a doctor too, it's like when you take the Hippocratic oath to help people and heal people,
That's
and
right.
you realize that your own, what you've been told is actually keeping people sick.
Yeah.
It's you're like, okay, yeah, those are the wise ones. Those are the wise doctors.
Yeah. And, I have had so many of my friends are like, it's not a healthcare system, it's a sick system.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
exactly.
it's to keep you sick, but I'm like, there are so many benefits to it. And it's just like, even in natural, spirituality and practices and things like that nature, like you're always going to have your good, and, you're exceptional, and your experts, and those that are willing to see, not only from their perspective, but from other perspectives, and to continuously learn. And then you're going to see, the polarity of that as well. So like it happens everywhere, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your program, Soullular Healing?
Absolutely. So a part of my journey, and this is, my guides and my angels that, in my spirit, where it's been leading me, and part of my sacred purpose. And I didn't understand this as I was navigating through it. But after my first near-death experience, it was a lot of that deep inner work that was happening within the intellectual body of the mind, of understanding, why do I believe the things that I do? Why do I allow my ego, to operate in certain aspects of my life where it really shouldn't, right? The ego is such a beautiful thing. Yet when we don't utilize it in the way, in its capacity that it's intended, it can also consume our life and run our life, right? So it's just to have that beautiful differentiation. But for that first, I would say, year and a half was really about focusing on my mindset. How did my mind work? Where were my belief systems? Where were my core values? What was the really understanding? What was mine? What wasn't mine? What was I should, I could, I would, or what was really, authentic to me? So it was like this deconstruction of all of these foundational belief systems, and this reconstruction of everything that I innately believe in, and what I actually have navigated through from a personal experience. So it was like this rebuilding of the mind, which was obviously a lot, right? There's so much surrendering that needs to happen to admit to yourself that you don't know everything and you weren't right about that, So it was just a lot of humbleness and a lot of humility that came with it. And then naturally my path just started moving me more into the emotional body. Why is my emotional response, my reactivity? Why am I triggered in certain situations? Where is the root of that? Where is that being stored in the body? Like there was so much of understanding, how do I exude emotional regulation over my own emotions without allowing somebody else to regulate my emotions, or external events, or, society or community or social media or anything like that. How can I, take that power and take control of my own emotional regulation? So there was a lot of emotional, decoding and restructuring that happened there as well, to understand the densities of my emotions, to be able to express my emotions, to be able to release my emotions. So many of us don't allow ourselves to cry, or to feel true joy, or to feel true curiosity or excitement. We're always wanting to know what's next, and not ever in a state of being. So I had to sit with that. I had to be in that. I had to understand the metrics of that. And then that naturally brought me into the physical body. How do I release this from my physical body? Through somatic movement, through breath work. How do I release, when I was doing my body movement, when I was doing, healing my own body. I had, so many injuries from the near-death experiences that I was naturally healing on my own, activating, within myself, within my pineal gland, and just going through this healing process of light. And every time I would get onto that mat and go into a deep, deep, deep somatic movement of listening to my intuitive knowingness, a memory would come to, the top of my consciousness. And then as I was releasing the muscle and surrendering to it, it was literally releasing the pain out of my muscle tissue and out of the fibers of my cells. So I knew that I was doing something. So I still do that to this day. Like, I'm always releasing, we're always accumulating things, and the body is just here to keep score. So it's like I'm always in cycle of practice, right? So it was like I was guided by spirit to literally go through every modality myself so I could teach from not, from learnings or from a book. This was gifted to you. This is how you do it. And this is how you're able to do that. And that was the most powerful thing for me, because when you're teaching from experience yourself of what your body had to navigate through, it's so powerful. And then naturally the energetics of everything, that was like just a culmination of everything that was happening. So it was releasing the root out of the energy field, removing the imprint, closing up the energy field, doing extractions, doing soul retrievals. Is a lot of body of work, right? But super powerful.
Yeah, with personal experience, it not only makes it easier to teach people how to do it, but the emotion, people connect better out of other people can. It seems like when you're teaching it out of experience, other people can feel that.
Absolutely.
You give them that energy and they can feel that energy. They're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So
Now
you have a retreat. You have a retreat called let's see, what is it? The Illumination Retreat.
Yeah.
Let me bring it up real quick. That's an awesome picture.
Thank you.
Is that where it's going to be?
Every year it changes. It's always at a special location. We always make sure that the ambiance and the environment is so inclusive of all healing capacities, and making sure that we are, in an environment where we can truly surrender and release and not have to worry. Because when we're in a state of flux, right, when we're in a state of like where we're not comfortable, it's hard for people to be able to release to the transmutation of whatever they're releasing. So it was really important for us to be able to capture that in every place and every location that we go to. It's not just selected by like its beauty, but by the land, the healing grounds of the land. The indigenous part of me comes in and does the reading on the land, making sure that the land is conducive, that it's healthy, that it's able to transmute the energy of what's going to be conducted there.
Yeah. Now, where is this going to be held?
The last one was in Italy.
Wow.
This one, we're still in the planning phases, but we're thinking probably Hawaii for for this year.
Yeah.
So in our retreat spaces, like we see so many beautiful things, and it's just so empowering. And everyone that that we've had come into the vicinity, into our connection, it's just like their life was never the same afterwards in a beautiful way.
Now, people can sign up for this retreat on your website, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a segue into how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you? And
yeah, absolutely. Anybody can get in touch with me through any social media platform under Roxanne Chaput, and through my website at roxannechaput.com. So that's ROXANNECHAPUT.com.
Awesome. Now, do you have any breakthrough experiences from any of your clients that you would like to share?
You know what? I've had countless. I've served so many, and I do massive energy healing conferences as well, some of the world's biggest energy healing conferences. And every breakthrough that I've experienced to me is so grandiose because it's such a beautiful, pivotal moment of awakening. But the one that I would say resonated with me so much is I had this beautiful person, this beautiful being. She had went through a lot of traumatic loss throughout her life. She had lost her father. She had lost her brother. She had lost one of her former partners and just experienced a lot of grief. And she was stuck in that cycle of grief. She was stuck in a place where she just couldn't move forward. And if she did move forward and wanted to move forward, she had this immense guilt that was there. And when we went into stewardship together, it was just like so what I did and what I typically do when someone has went through a lot of life lessons. I don't like to call them trauma responses because I think they're all life lessons. They're all teachings to us.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to do when there's almost like an immersion of the emotional body or the mental body is very resistive, I bring them through a death and dying ceremony. So this is going through the transient state where they go directly into the soul body, and the soul body traverses back to the creator of why they came here, what lessons they came to learn, what are their karmic debts, what are their karmic contracts, and what do they need to fulfill in terms of their sacred purpose and oath. And when she had this journey, obviously a lot of them cry when they come back, but it was like this deep sobbing to understand also because her pod family met her there on the other side. And it was just like this beautiful connection of her reconnecting and knowing that they weren't actually gone, that they were just, they had transitioned. And knowing what her sacred purpose was, it propelled her life. She left the relationship that she was currently in because it was not serving her. It was serving her trauma, her trauma responses. It was a trauma bond. And she just started her own business and she just started pursuing her sacred purpose. So it was just such a beautiful thing to see from someone in a, immense state of suffering to this beautiful state of complete empowerment, and stepping into the highest self was just astonishing.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing to see people that transition. Just seeing that is very overwhelming.
I cry every time. There's no hiding it.
There is no hiding it. And it's I try to do that here on the show. Whether we're not always happy. There's gonna be some sad moments. But that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Like you said, there's some people that are afraid to cry, and are because we are always brought up, oh, you're not supposed to cry, or that. No, BS.
And sadness is such a beautiful expression, right? Like that sadness, those tears, the release that happens, the relief that happens to the emotional body is impeccable, because we're meant to feel so much joy, and we can't feel true joy until we feel true sadness. Like it's just, so we prevent ourselves from feeling that joy because we're stuck in the mediocrity between the emotions, and we're in an emotional entrapment instead of an emotional release.
Yeah. Now, let's see. Okay. So how do we create this life that we all imagine?
We are all the creators of our lives. We get to create what we say yes to, and we get to create what we say no to. And the beautiful thing about shamanism is that a lot of, the perceptions and perspective is that 80% is destiny and 20% is free will. And, I think that is up for interpretation to anyone's perspective. And I think there's this point of, what do you actually want and desire for your life? And are you living that in this now moment? Are you being in this now moment? Or are you creating the very resistance of what you're trying to create? Because we can say that we want a happy love. We can say that we want a successful business. We can say that we want, all of our dreams to come true and receive our dreams. But at the end of the day, if our energy centers are holding on to, in our root, we're holding on to lineages of, financial despair or, very unhealthy relationships, and we're carrying that is an emit, and that's what we emit into the universe. It's an emission, right? So everything is energy, everything is frequency, everything is vibration. So is all of your bodies in alignment and in synergetic harmony, that it's all in resonance, saying the same thing in terms of vibrational frequency of the output? And that's how we create a masterful life. I mean, we can go into a lot of detail about that, but that's how we create a masterful life, is because everything, our thoughts, our emotions, everything is vibrational frequency. And it's all like messaging. It's all encoding that happens. So I can say that I want to be a millionaire and I feel like I can, but then in my root or in my intuitive knowingness or in my sacred, I don't believe I can create that. Well, then that's the exact emission that I'm going to create in terms of the resistance of wanting to create my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking or having the idea that we can't do something because we're told we can't keeps us from doing it. I mean, the mind is such a powerful thing. We can do anything we want.
We are limitless. Everyone's like, oh, the sky's the limit. I'm like, no, you are limitless. You are limitless.
Yeah.
Anything you desire, you can create.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. And like you said, just a moment ago, living in the past is quite detrimental. I mean, we can heard this the other day. It's the past is a place to learn from, not to live in.
Absolutely. And when we're living in the past, we're living in heightened states of anxiety and depression more than likely because of the experience of what it keeps coming in. So it's anchored as an emotional coding that we consider as wounding. And the reality of that is that the moment that we start being present, and this is not even, going into the future at times, our mind is naturally going to wander because we are so multidimensional and we're living at so many different dimensional planes at a given moment. Mm-hmm. But what it is that if we can't learn to be a human being, right, and to be in the presence of everything that we are, then it's very hard to actually get to a place where we actually want to be. And when you ask most people, the first thing that they want is freedom. They want inner peace. They want to feel like they're fulfilled and that they're happy, and they're seeking all these things externally outside of themselves. When you come back to being and you come back to sitting why you're uncomfortable in being, that's when you really start doing the body of work. And work doesn't need to be work, right? Like, it's about healing. It's healing forward so that you can be, and that you can release the past, and you can take the lessons, you can take the teachings, and you could apply them to your life. That's all that they're meant for. They're here because you fulfilled a soul contract, you fulfilled, a karmic lesson, and now it's for you to integrate that lesson so that you don't have to relearn that lesson. It's about moving forward and perpetuating yourself forward.
Wow. So before we close the show today, what would you like to leave our audience as a takeaway?
I would say, the most simplistic thing, yet the most powerful thing, is to truly believe in yourself and believe in your magic, believe in your abilities, believe in who you are as a person. And, we are all here to be the change. It doesn't matter if we're in the duality of it. We are all here to be the change. And it's important that you honor yourself and honor your soul and where you're being guided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not allowing other people telling you who you're not.
Absolutely. There's no more coulds, would, shoulds. It's who you innately believe that you are. Believe in yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Roxanne, blessings and namaste, my friend.
Namaste, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, please, if you wanted to go on that retreat, oh, man. Go to her website, Roxanne Chaput, RoxanneChaput.com. It's either scrolling on the bottom of the screen or it's all on the show notes. So, Roxanne, blessings again, my friend. Thank you for sharing your gifts with us. And if you have anything coming up, like a book or another retreat or a special project and stuff like that, reach out to me, reach out to us, and definitely more than happy to share it on the show.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's such an honor, and thank you for sharing your soul with me today. Thank you.
You are very, very welcome, and likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into The Seance, and we will see you next week.